Hey, so I'm gonna make this video a two-part series. First part is just gonna be about the exact steps I went through to farm the pigs, suggestion tips on how to do it very cheaply, and then the second part is gonna be the finances, exactly how much I spent, exactly how much I got return on it, and so forth. I'm gonna upload it at the same time, so if you don't care about the first part, just care about the second part, you can watch that, and then if you're interested, you can watch back the first part. I don't want to, clickbait people. So yeah, if you feel free to subscribe if you can. I'm working on a floating island and a electric excavator project. So those are two things I'm gonna be making pretty soon. Hey, Robot here, making a video on how to farm pigs for basically cheap. So these are my registered Berkshires. They're considered the Wagyu beef of pork. They have marbled meat to them. They're originally raised and bred by royals in Britain, pretty much kind of like Wagyu beef of pork. Obviously mines aren't unpastured, they're in wooded areas. Right now I'm using them to clear out the wooded areas, so I don't have any ring nose. So if you do want to put them on pasture and to avoid them from rooting up and tearing up the pasture, you put what's called hog rings. Pretty much it's just piercings, I guess you could say. But yeah, so pretty much the way I keep my animals in is this wire right here, which is an electric fence. I don't know if you hear the clicking. It's shorting out right here, actually. But yeah, so with this electric fence is how I keep my animals in. The small ones do go underneath. If I wanted to, I could lower the electric fence lower, but I do like that the young ones come out because I have a independent feed station for them where they always have feed. That way the females, when I feed the females, the babies will have food to eat afterwards, plus the grass and other stuff that they can graze on. So with farming, or pig farming, or any farming really, animal, there's three things you want, right? Food, shelter, and water. For the shelter, we just covered that with electric fencing. For the food, right now I'm just using barrels. See in the back there, I just have, there we go, that barrel right there. I just have cut barrels in half, and I drill some holes so when it rainwater it can drain. And I just 2 times a day, morning, afternoon, feed them, and throughout the day they'll graze, root around, eat acorns, whatever they can find. And for the water system, I'll show that next. So here's my watering system. Seems basic, or don't really see much here. But all it is this poly hose, irrigation hose. It's 1/2-inch poly hose. I have it wherever. So my property is 5 acres, and I currently have half of it with the irrigation setup. And with this, you can buy these poly hoses for like, I think it's like 70 or 80 bucks on Amazon for like 500 feet. Something like, or 1,000 feet. I forgot. It's cheap. I mean, to avoid having to fill up water, barrels or buckets or whatever, constantly. It's just get this. I mean, you could get these water nipples for, I think it's also like $2 on Amazon. So it's just so cheap. And I'll show you exactly how the water nipple itself setup works. So the way that this nipple works pretty much is as the irrigation going. I like to use the trees as the stations. First thing with pigs, do not dig a hole in the ground or anything structural, because they'll just rip it out. Pigs love to dig. But if you have it hanging from a tree or something, as you see, they don't like to pull. They're not like dogs, so they'll like try to push on it and it'll just move away, right? I've never had any of these ever break. So all I have is a steel wire. I don't know if you're able to see this wire, but I have a steel wire that's crimped around here and goes up to the tree that secures it. And then the poly hose, I give it some slack so it doesn't, pull. And right here I just have a 1/2 inch 90 from again from Lowe's, Home Depot, a piece of 1/2 inch pipe, adapter to 1/2 inch, and then that's where the poly hose attaches to. And again, this nipple, how it works is, if you see here, they just press on this, as you see. That's all they do. All they do is bite on it, and whenever they need water, they need water. A good thing to have two of them, and from time to time check, because they do, if you don't have a filter on your water supply, it might get clogged with sand or something. So, you know, good thing to have two. And also with the piglets, it's very important to have a dripping one, and I'll show you why in a second. So here's my loose one, or my dripping one. So it's typically you know, once they're old enough, sometimes they'll again, they'll get something stuck in them and they'll be dripping like this. I leave always one or two that are like these, or if they aren't dripping, you could get a wrench and unscrew it a little bit, and that'll cause it to drip. And the point of the dripping is that the piglets aren't tall enough to reach that. So by having a bucket, or even just a little pool in the ground, they can sip from that to have water. Very important, you know, they have water. So, yeah, where'd you good boy Cookies? This is Cookies. He's my breeding boar. It's my most favorite. His original name was Terminator because of his really ugly face, but his personality is just the best pig I've ever met. And the reason I call him Cookies is because if I ever need to bring him from one pen to another, I use Cookies to, you know, attract them. So love him. He's the best. I want to show how well they're able to clear out. So as you see, absolutely nothing. Just the reference of how this bad was I mean, all those bushes over there. You know, it was impossible to walk through, let alone see through anything. You know, you can see right through it. So it's yeah, they do a really good job at clearing out land. I've had them, so after a hurricane it flooded, and you know, like for example right here, it used to be down like maybe 2-3 feet. I've had them dig up to 4 feet deep. So they can they can dig deep, and I've had them tear out 12 to 14 inch tree stumps. They could probably go deeper, but the only reason I don't is because I like, you know, to keep the big trees, right? We have a very beautiful property here. There's a roadway, trees going over. I mean, I love this. I love this. Eventually I want to build a house somewhere here, but yeah. But with the bigger tree stumps, or any, if you want to clear them or have them clear out a specific area, what you could do is you could get a piece of pole or something and get some corn. So with a stick or something like this, you just grab a stick, get a hammer, you know, make a hole, pull it out, put some corn in that hole, you know, cover it up, and they'll go digging for that corn. So yeah, I mean, there's ways to manage and control your pigs. Remember, with pigs, you don't want to force them to do something they don't want. You want to make them do something that they want, right? If you try to like chase them out from an area, they'll go the opposite direction. If you bring food and, you know, attract them to that area, they'll go right to it. You know, positive reinforcement is the only way that works with pigs. You know, again, these are pigs. These are very large animals. My boar that I showed earlier is about 600-700 pounds. So you are not going to be able to, you know, wrestle that or force your way with that. Think hard, not work hard. Right. So my feed, I keep him in these barrels. I highly suggest metal barrels for long-term storage, because with these plastic ones, squirrels, rats, etc. will just chew a hole right through them. I also keep feed always in these little half barrel cuts things, mostly for the pigs, but also for, to discourage the rats and animals, rodents from chewing through these barrels. But my other, my primary storage where I keep most of my feed is in 55 metal barrels. I highly suggest though that with that metal barrel you put a plastic liner in it, otherwise condensation and stuff will, cause water in the barrel. But with that plastic lining, again, I'll show you later. But yeah, with my pigs, so I feed them 15% commodity mix. So what that means is 50% protein. Commodity mix, just commodity ingredients, corn, soy, etc. So with this 50% commodity mix, it has mostly corn fried products, and it has soybean husk for that increased protein content. And that increased protein is very important for the pigs. If you feed them, less than 15%, 12% is too little, it will cause them issues and they just won't grow enough. With animals, including humans, and animal farming has taught me a ton in how to properly manage nutrients and diets in animals. I've seen a lot of people feed their animals like just corn, for example. There's no nutrients. Corn is an amazing product, but too much of anything is bad, and especially if you only eat one thing your entire life, you're going to develop health issues. I've noticed these pigs that are just fed on corn, they are very unhealthy. They have issues with their liver. There's a lot of issues. What I feed my pigs is typically 1.5 of these little scoops. A little bit excessive, but the reason why I'm doing it is because they have piglets and they're nursing. Otherwise, I'll just do 1 scoop. The male, I do need to separate him because he's eating a little too much. And with that separation, I'm able to limit his diet because he can just eat half a scoop a day and he'll be perfectly fine. But yeah, with these buckets, I'll show you how I feed them. This female right here has almost killed me once. She is a litter right now, so I'm gonna try to get her to stay away from me. She's kind of, when she's on her hormones, can be a little crazy. So if you see me with a stick, that's why. But this is how I feed them, really quick and really easy. So as you just saw there, I had to use the stick. Typically when I start going towards the back, she gets nervous because that's where her babies are. She knows that typically when I'm around, that means I'm gonna catch her babies. But yeah, when she jumped on me, she put me on the ground, bit my arm. I was bleeding through my artery. It was terrible. And keep in mind, she's like a 400 or 500 pound beast. I'm 155 pounds. Like it can be dangerous. So you need to assert dominance. You know, make sure tell her who's boss with that stick. You know, a little tap on the head. You know, make sure don't fall back. Don't show your weakness. Don't show you're scared. Just assert dominance. Also, if you saw towards the end as I was holding that bucket, that's a very good shield. A shield will do a ton against a pig because that plastic shield, again, they like to, you know, push, and that plastic shield just makes them slide off to the side. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with her most of the year. She's the only one I have an issue with. I would, you know, put her to meat, but you know, tolerating her for 1 or 2 weeks of the whole year, well, twice 2 litters a year, so 4 weeks of the year, you know, like that. Not too big of a deal. Here's how I open and close my electric fence system. So if I need to move them from ends, or if they escape somehow and I need to bring them back in. Rarely they escape. Typically if they do escape, it's because, you know, I haven't checked around the electric fence in half a year, and, you know, so there's like a tree branch completely falling on something. You know, if you check every once a month, you'll be fine. But yeah, with this, I just have pretty much 2 wires that I cut it in half and then tie 2 regular wires, bend them together. That's how I use it as my gate system. When you do the electric fencing, I first use just the metal wire around. But the problem with the metal wire is they have a hard time seeing it. When they're starting to learn to it, they can run through it accidentally. But more importantly, when you're trying to move them from a pen to a pen, they can't see that, you know, metal wire, and they're trained that there's something there. But with this white stuff, you can physically show that, hey, you know, this has been moved. It's called poly electric wire. So pretty much all it is a plastic wire rope, and it has very thin metal filaments going through it. So that's how I use to hold in my. You can buy like 1,000 feet for like 40-50 bucks. So again, super cheap. And then today, I'd say my whole system that I put here for, you know, 2.5 acres was about like $250-300 maybe maximum. You know, it's really not that much. What I do is, so I have these rebars, as you see towards the end, and I get some PVC pipe. I cut it in like 1-2 inches. I just drill 2 holes. I actually get the pipe and rebar for free. I used to work on a construction site, and my dad used to work on a construction site, and they constantly throw out, you know, material, rebar, plastic, you know, etc. So, you know, just once you work in there long enough. But also, if you don't work in there, you can also just drive by a construction site, you know, dumpster dive, make sure you ask for permission, make sure it's legal, blah blah blah. Most of the time, if you do ask permission, they'll tell you to like go in the nighttime, because otherwise, you know, liability issues if you go and start dumpster diving, you know, under their hours. But yeah, I mean, you can farm for cheap. You know, I've seen a lot of people when they do pig farming, they have these heavy, you know, 4x4 posts, 2x8 wood boards, you know, and the pig just digs right underneath or just breaks right through them. You know, these are strong animals. These are literally like little tractors. You know, you can't stop a pig unless it doesn't want to go out. So the best way to keep a pig in is to make it happy, make it fed well, and this electric fence. You know, once they touch it a couple times, they know not to touch it anymore. You know, pigs are very smart animals. They're smarter than dogs, so treat them with respect. A lot of things, if you notice, they're not pooping everywhere around. You know, pigs, they're, again, smart animals. If you give them enough space, they'll poop in one little corner of the area, and, you know, where they sleep, where they poop, where they eat, it's completely different places. You know, pigs aren't like most other animals where they poop where they eat. No, they're smart. And that's like that misconception that, oh, pigs, you know, swallowing their own shit. No, it's because if you put them in a 10x10 area, you know, filled with mud, and they have no choice. Like, where are they gonna go? You know, so again, think hard, not work hard. During the winter time, I really suggest you have a little hut thing. I'm here in Florida; it doesn't get too cold, but piglets, they like warmth, right? Baby animals, they like to be warm. And in pig farming, there's a huge issue of accidental crushing. There really is not any solution I found except for this. And so there's even, like, I was searching very deep into this, and like there was some research experiments where they went as far as creating inflatable balloons with like a radar detection system, which would detect if there's a piglet and deploy. You know, it's stupid. Because again, when you're a pig and you have 16 little babies running around you, you know, it's a hard situation. But this, with that heat lamp, it forces them away from their mom. And if you see, I have an electrical system that again separates the babies from the mom, so the mom doesn't want to come here, but the babies, they can. And it helps a ton. Again, it's not in the winter time right now, so I'm not using this. Luckily, these were born right before it's going to start to get cold. But if it was, I highly suggest, you know, just a little hot heat lamp in the night. You know, that you'll that's the number one fatality issue with piglets is crushing, sadly.